Okay, here's a question for you. Can you actually write off your vacation? Well, most people think that it's too good to be true, but what if I told you there's a legal way to turn your travel into tax savings? Hi, my name's Anthony Brister, and I'm a tax attorney and owner of the Brister Law Firm, and this is a Wealth Planning Podcast with Brister Law. Today, we're talking about deducting travel expenses. That's right, we're not just talking about vacations, we're talking about strategically planning your travel to save money, grow your business, and leave a legacy. Whether you're traveling for annual meetings, scouting business opportunities, going to conferences to grow your skills, or driving to your rental property, you may be leaving money on the table if you're not deducting your travel expenses. Today, we'll cover the basics of deducting your travel, common scenarios where travel can be deducted, annual meetings, and other creative opportunities to deduct your travel, and how to use travel to build generational wealth. Plus, I'll share some real-life examples and stories to inspire you to think bigger when it comes to your travel plans. So, what is deductible? The first thing you need to know to deduct travel expenses is your trip must be primarily for business. That means over 50% of your time must be spent on business-related activities. So if you meet that threshold, here's a quick list of deductible expenses: airfare, train, transportation, hotels, lodging, currently 50% of your meals, car rentals, your Ubers, mileage, internet if you need it. Now, you might wonder, what about mixing business with pleasure? Well, don't worry, we'll get into that in just a bit. But first, let's talk about a real life example. I had a client who is a consultant here in Houston. She needed to go to LA for a 3-day conference. Well, her flight, her hotel, the car she rented, and the cost to attend the event were all deductible because that was directly related to growing her business and growing the skills for her business. Another example, I had a client who's an online coach. She flew from Austin to a workshop. Her airfare, hotel, meals, Uber rides were all deductible. But she was also smart in that she also scheduled a client meeting too, and was able to sandwich a weekend in that and get that also deducted. So the key tips to maximizing your tax savings is, first, you need to plan ahead, bundle your business activities on that trip, keep detailed records, document the business purpose, meeting agendas, client emails, conference tickets, use receipts or softwares to track all of this stuff. A few common scenarios I get asked about all the time. First scenario is combining business and vacation. And the golden rule here really is, if the primary purpose of the business is travel, if the primary purpose of the travel is business, then you should be able to deduct it. Now, let's talk about, you're going to Miami and you have a conference Thursday, Friday. You have that weekend there. Well, if you do nothing, the weekend, if you decide to stay, is not going to be deductible because that's personal and not really any business expenses. But if you schedule a meeting on Monday with a client and then fly out, you could have that whole trip deductible. Next up, what about family members? Well, family members can travel with you, but their expenses are only deductible if they're an employee for your business and their presence is necessary. For example, if you have your wife and kids on your board of advisors and you're doing an annual meeting, their travel can be deductible. Today, we're really just talking about domestic travel. The rules are a little bit different for international, but for domestic travel, it's pretty straightforward. The rule is, if the primary purpose is business related, the travel expenses can be deductible. So that means if more than 50% of your time spent on a working day is business related, then you can deduct it. So let's talk about annual meetings and creative opportunities. As a business owner, you should hold annual meetings for your LLC, corporation, or other entity. This not only is deductible, but it also helps you maintain your corporate veil. So why not host them in a desirable location? For example, if you have a family business, you have your family on the board and you decide to go to Hawaii, but you schedule out more than 50% of your time there on business-related activities, you have some fun at night, you enjoy the scenery, well, then you can deduct that trip. But you also need to be reasonable. So if you're only grossing $10,000 a year in your business, a trip to Hawaii might not be reasonable for an annual meeting. But if you're going for an industry conference, it might be reasonable to attend that. So attending industry or conferences for educational purposes that in a field that you're already in can be deductible. And if you do have some personal pleasure from that trip after hours, as long as you're spending that amount of time, you can deduct it. So how do you build generational wealth with traveling? Well, first off, tax savings equals more money to invest. So if you're already spending the money on travel and you get a deduction, you're saving your tax bracket on whatever you were already spending. So the trick is to use that savings to buy assets that will cash flow and build your net worth. I always tell my clients to involve their kids in the business. So bring them on your annual trips, talk to them about the entrepreneurial lifestyle, teach them about tax strategies, show them how to review financials, show them about your business and how you make money. Those skills are translatable and they don't teach you that in school. So, at a younger age, the more they get involved with the business, the better off they're going to be, and they're going to be way ahead of the curve. Just be sure to keep great records, have an agenda, make sure it's reasonable. But if you do all of those things and the primary purpose of your business or of your travel is business related, then you can deduct that travel. So my name's Anthony Brister again, and as always, thank you for listening to the Wealth Planning Podcast with Brister Law. If you enjoyed this video, please share it with anyone who you think might benefit. As always, too, if you need a tax advisor and not someone who just prepares your taxes, go to bristertaxlaw.com, schedule a discovery meeting, and see if we are a good fit to be your tax advisor and get you ahead of the curve when it comes to tax planning, so you can save money on taxes and invest and build that generational wealth. There's also will be a link in the bio or a description of this if you want to schedule that discovery call. Thank you.